Well, welcome back to our ownership issue. Well, as the rest of the NBA is watching the Celtics and the Mavericks, Jon Krawcynski is keeping an eye on the ongoing ownership situation for the Timberwolves. Let's dive into that with him now that the Timberwolves season is officially over and we've kind of gotten through the recap of the season. Let's talk about what's really going on and what to expect. We'll also talk about what the Celtics are doing that is limiting the Mavericks offense that maybe the Timberwolves didn't, and how that might affect Timberwolves off-season decisions. This is the Jon Krawcynski Show, part of TalkNorth.com. A warning to everybody, I've been working out of my home office and they are doing construction all around me. I apologize for any extra sounds you might hear, including my dogs having to be in the office with me to keep them from killing all the workers. So it might be a little bit of a messy situation, but we definitely want to get to these issues. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank Princeton Liquors, Chewy Vision Institute, TSR Injury Law, Head Flyer Brewing, and Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. Best way to listen to this show or any show at the network, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. You can also hear John on the Viking Update Show. Tons of good outdoor content, tons of good sports content. We appreciate you listening. All right, John, I'll just throw it open to you. Tell me what the heck's going on with the ownership situation and what you expect at this point.
Yeah, usually the first week after season ends, you kind of are able to catch your breath and just kind of relax, maybe look forward a little bit on what's going to happen in the off season, look backward a little bit and reminisce on the season that happened. But there was some real major developments last week, from a news standpoint for the Timberwolves. And it all kind of stems from the same place. You had early last week, Glenn Taylor coming to an agreement with Tim Connelly on a new sort of restructured contract. I will say not a new contract, but a restructured contract that pushes his opt-out date from this summer to next summer. And that allows Tim Connelly to really look at how this ownership situation is going to settle over the next several months before he kind of makes any sort of commitment long-term to what's going on here, because I think he wants to know who is going to be in charge for the long haul here for the Wolves before he can make any sort of informed decision on what's on his future and his family's future here in Minnesota. So Glenn Taylor does that, and I think that was a very important step for the Timberwolves, just for stability for this summer, to get them through an important building summer to capitalize on the momentum going to the Western Conference Finals. Then a little later in the week, you have our report at The Athletic that former Mayor Michael Bloomberg, one of the richest men in the world, has joined the Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez ownership group as a limited investor in that group to provide even more financial heft to the group, to certainly start, I think, to be involved in some of their long-term planning for the organization. And that includes a privately financed arena. That includes possibly some sort of version of the Yes Network that is out east with the Yankees, and that they want to look into the viability of something like that here in the Midwest, because of all of the issues with Bally Sports North and the regional sports networks in general. And if there's something that the Timberwolves can do with other teams to kind of partner on a network to get their games in front of fans. And so, you add someone of that sort of power, of that sort of influence into your group, and it makes a big splash. And I think that for a pairing, Rodriguez and Lowry, who have heard throughout this last several years that they do not have the money to pay for not only buying the team, but then to keep the lights on, to pay the luxury tax, to do all those things going into the future. You add someone like Michael Bloomberg to the mix, that certainly makes a big statement in their efforts to quell those concerns. And so what you have seen, Jim, in this last week is two ownership groups making plans as if they are running the franchise. And I still believe, and I've talked to a few people, I don't think that we're going to have any resolution for the arbitration until late fall, perhaps. So we're still going to be in this limbo situation. So in the meantime, both groups are trying to kind of run things, or at least make plans to run things, so that when the arbitration ruling does come down and you get some sort of finality and clarity to it, that they're just ready to go as is. And so it's been a wild week on the ownership front in Wolves land.
Just to reiterate, when do you expect things to start getting resolved here?
Yeah, so it's unclear exactly what the timeline is. What I do know and what we have reported is that the arbitration panel, the 3-person panel, has been selected for this group. Then it's 3 neutral third-party people who are going to hear the case and the arguments from both sides. And I think that 2 of them, are from out east somewhere, maybe, and one is local, or it might be the other way around. But at any rate, they have the panel picked. Both sides have submitted briefs on their behalf to argue their case, and so the process has started essentially. But because of it seems like everything that this is not technically a legal in a courtroom setting, but usually a lot of these people who are involved in these things are lawyers, are, past former judges, things of that nature. And so there's a timeline that goes with this that is extended. Like you hear about the legal system and everything takes forever to get done. And I think that's the same thing here with this arbitration process. So I don't believe that, all 3 of them are able to sort of get together at the same time till much later in the summer and into the fall to start doing the hard work and the process of going through all of the steps that need to be taken. And so I think that it's going to be into the fall, not end of summer, into the fall before we have any clarity. Exactly when is that going to be? I can't say yet. I hope to get more specific and definitive timelines on it here coming up. But right now, if anyone is kind of, and I understand Wolves fans saying, man, can we just get this over with? I think people in the Wolves organization are in the same boat. Like, can we just get this over with and so we have a real answer on who is calling the shots here? That's not coming anytime soon. It's going to be months and months here before we get to any resolution, which is only adding to the complexities around this summer for the Timberwolves and really around trying to chart out any kind of long-term vision here.
The people I've talked to in the organization prefer Glenn Taylor retains ownership just because he's a known. He will spend money. He won't threaten to move the team. But, Minnesotans are very good at having irrational fears about new owners. Are there any real fears people should have about Lori Rodriguez, now Bloomberg taking over, or is that just typical Minnesota paranoia?
Well, I mean, I will say this. I certainly, in the wake of reporting about Bloomberg's arrival to the camp, I did see plenty of fans kind of responding and saying, well, this just means for sure they're going to move the team, that's going to happen, that this only cements the appetite to get this team up out of here and moving. And I will say that in continuing to talk to people and continuing to look at the landscape of the league, I just am having a hard time finding the reality of that concern, because I think you have, looking at the whole landscape of it, what we said when Mark Lori and Alex Rodriguez first came in to the ownership group, there were real concerns about it, and understandably so. But the more you talk to people around the league, the more that you talk to people even locally here, it was the sense that because the NBA wants to expand to Seattle and Las Vegas, that those are the two most ideal markets that you could move a team to and say, yeah, we're going to improve our standing by moving a team to a new arena in those markets. But both of those markets are moving forward with the expectation that an expansion team is going to land there. That is where the real money is going to come into the NBA's coffers, is by expansion fees that, probably top $4 billion for each team. A relocation fee would be much, much lower. And so just revenue generation standpoint, you figure Seattle and Las Vegas. The other part about it is that Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry are discussing, as we reported, a privately financed arena in downtown Minneapolis that would, if they do it, would certainly eliminate any concerns about moving, because the one scenario that you look at for a team to move is if they cannot get an arena built in the city in which they play. We've seen it time and time again. So I believe that if the Timberwolves would ask for public money for a new arena, that would be a very, very difficult prospect for them to secure, given the public money already spent on other stadiums and arenas, given the lack of long-term success from the Wolves, all of those things. So if they truly do have plans to build the arena privately, and then if they build the arena privately, they can rake in all the profits privately, and that's their right. They can do that. If they spend the money to do it, they should reap the benefits of it. Then that takes a lot of the pressure off of a move scenario. And if you have Mayor Michael Bloomberg's money, if you have former Google CEO Eric Schmidt's money involved in this, you can see a possibility of, hey, we are putting this all thing together and we're going to make this happen. And that would just really take care of all of the pressure to worry about moving a team, is if that. Now, I will underline, reiterate that so far, all of this discussion about a new arena, about a privately financed arena, is just that. It's discussion. It's talk. There's been no shovels in the ground. There's been no, security deposits dropped. There's been none of the planning of it just yet has happened. It's all just discussion. So something could always happen that gets in the way, or they could, if they were to win an arbitration, they could then change their minds and say, no, we do need public money for an arena. We do need that, and change face. But as of right now, if they stick to the plans that they are talking about privately and internally, that would eliminate any concern for moving the team. So, to me, Jim, kind of as a long way around to get to your answer about moving is not right now chief among my concerns. But I guess if you want to have a concern about the Lowry and Rodriguez camp right now, it is, okay, they have Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez, Eric Schmidt, Mayor Michael Bloomberg is coming in with a lot of money for this. Is there a scenario where it's too many cooks in the kitchen? Who is really kind of calling the shots here? That's something that you can look at and say, all right, whose money is it? Who's going to be the chief decision maker? Are there going to be many people that are trying to get their kind of fingerprints on this? Because there are a bunch of limited partners, even several more beyond Schmidt and Bloomberg. So that's something to consider, I guess. I think that, if you bring those questions to Lowry and Rodriguez, they would probably say, hey, actually, we're still going to have the majority shares of this, of the team. And so we will have the power and the decision-making power. But, you are in business with some real heavyweights, and will those heavyweights kind of sit on the sideline, sit idly by, and just be, kind of happy to give you their money for luxury tax, for arena, for all these things, and not have a lot of the shine on them. Maybe that's the case. It's entirely possible, but that's the one thing that I would look at and just say, all right, is this the best way? But this is the team that they have assembled. They all believe in that, and they're going to go forward believing that this is the group and that this is what it's going to take to get this grand vision really unveiled in Minneapolis.
More on Connelly, more on the Timberwolves and what they might plan to do going forward in terms of basketball. First, though, we want to let you know we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank one of our newer sponsors, Princeton Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. They've been in business for a long time. They've been Timberwolves fans and fans of this podcast and us as writers for a long time as well. And so I would always say support the people who support us. And Princeton's Liquors has given us great support over the years, and now most recently joining the Talk North family. Bill Princeton and his family have been in the liquor business in the North Metro area for decades and decades. They have one of the best selections of craft beer in not just the North Metro, but the entire state. They have THC seltzers and gummies. Now that they're legal, they are dipping into that market as well. You have plenty of options if you're looking for those features to go into Princeton's Liquors and check out their selection there. They also have one of the widest and deepest selections of bourbons that you can find at a local liquor store in the area. That's one of their main focuses, is to get the highest quality, some of the most unique, some of the most sought after bourbon that you can get. So if you really enjoy a good bourbon, go to Princeton's Liquors, check it out. Bill Princeton is a third generation booze slinger. His grandfather turned his confectionery store into a bar pretty much as soon as Prohibition flipped in 1933. So we're getting close to 100 years here that the Princetons have been in the liquor business in the area. You can trust that they're going to have great selection, that they're going to have great pricing. Bill actually interned for the Timberwolves and Lynx in the 2000-2001 seasons. He wore the Crunch mascot several times in the summer of 2001. So he's a local person. We're local people. You all are local people. Support Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove.
It's been one of the cool things about doing a podcast is all the support we've gotten from local businesses and the way we promote local businesses and we both live in the metro area. We support these businesses ourselves. It's great to work with them. Another one, tell us about your experience with Chewy Vision Institute.
Chewy Vision, I can't wait. Now that the season is over, I'm starting to discuss some plans to go in to Chewy Vision Institute in Bloomington and have LASIK surgery. During the playoffs, I went into Chewy Vision for an in-depth evaluation of my eyes to see what kind of options I had for vision correction. I have these glasses that I've had forever. I'm going to have to update them sooner rather than later. And so I thought, hey, why not look at LASIK as an option? Because I'm tired of just paying money every year, every 2 years for new glasses. So I went in, had a great evaluation. They run you through a bunch of different tests. They have super welcoming, warm, intelligent, educational people that take you through the entire process, that present all sorts of options for you and try and give you the right guidance for which one is right for you. They don't pressure you into anything. They just offer their expertise and their evaluation. And that's what they did for me. And so I couldn't have been more pleased with Chewy Vision Institute, and my experience there on the front end of it. And I can't wait to go back here in the coming weeks, have some LASIK surgery, and come out of it and tell you all about that process as well. You can go to ChewVision, CHUvision.com for more information. Chewy Vision Institute in Bloomington is the place to go. Check them out. Tell them Jon Krawcynski and the Jon Krawcynski Show sent you.
So let's talk about Tim Connelly now. He said at the exit interview that he doesn't want to move again because moving stinks. I agree with him, but of course that's kind of a glib statement. How serious do you think he is about that?
I mean, I do think that he wants to be here ultimately. He easily could have, and I would not have blamed him for exercising his opt-out right after the season and saying, look, with all these ownership issues, with kind of some of the luxury tax things that questions that we have to answer with the team building. I'm just this is not the place. I don't want to commit long term for this. When you look at the job that he did with Denver, the job that he's done with Minnesota, he is immediately going to be one of the top options available on the market for any job that comes open here in the next couple of years if he were a free agent. He and Bob Myers from Golden State would be immediately the top two guys that are called for any and every position that becomes available. The Detroit Pistons were hot after him, were very interested in him, ultimately decided they didn't want to wait for the Western Conference Finals to be over, so they moved forward with Trajan Langdon. So he did not have an immediate team to go to, but had he opted out, there could have been another team that looked and said, well, we didn't think Tim Connelly was going to be available. We're going to shift gears now and bring him in. Or he could have taken a year off, just relaxed. He's made plenty of money and just waited for the next big job to come open. And then he could have done that. But instead, I think that he looked at this team and the roster that they have built, that he believes with just a few changes or tweaks could, make that next step from Final Four to Final Two. He looked at the coaching staff that he really respects and thinks incredibly highly of, and as a group that he wants to keep working with. And I think that over the last year, especially, I would say, I think his family has really gotten to a point where they're enjoying Minnesota. I think his kids like living here. I think his wife and he have definitely warmed to the area. I think the first year that they spent here was certainly a little rocky. I mean, you're making a move from a place you spent 9 years in Denver. You had the Rudy Gobert trade was certainly up in the air, and there was some criticism flowing. The team was underwhelming, and I don't think they ever felt settled in their first season here. They settle in, they have a great season. They, find the restaurants they like. They get their kids in school. They started to make some friends and things around town. And I think that has helped the lifestyle as well. The Connelly family is big on kind of social interaction. They like to be out and about. They like to be having a good time in their environment. And so I think that what he felt this last season in Minnesota was good too. And so I think that he does. I think he would prefer to stay if all things are equal. What he doesn't know yet is who's going to be calling the shots. Is it Glenn Taylor? Is it Mark Lori, Alex Rodriguez? And so he wants to see all of that through. I don't think it's necessarily as easy as, I only want to work for Mark and Alex, or, I only want to work for Glenn, or anything like that. I don't think it's that at all. I think he wants to just see all of the chaos that is surrounding this process just go away. And what does it look like when whoever emerges as the lead dog? And how does that settle in? I think right now, and really over the last 3 or 4 months, ever since Glenn Taylor pushed the button to say that the deal is off, there's been a lot of confusion internally, front office, business side, all of it, as to who are we answering to, who is in charge, what is going to kind of come about here, and how do I figure this out? And so he went down last week to Mankato and met with Glenn Taylor. They had a good discussion, from what I'm told, and ultimately decided that, hey, let's just push this out another year. I think there are other discussions happening about potential compensation increases for his staff, for maybe a playoff bonus or something like that. But he didn't go down there saying, I want $15 million a year or else I'm leaving. That did not happen. But he did want to maintain a little bit of flexibility just to see this whole process out. What I'm told is Glenn Taylor totally understood that, also understood how important it was to have Tim Connelly in place here. Like, you can't be going through, imagine trying to, fill a job, a GM job if your guy leaves because he has concerns about where the ownership is going, and then trying to hire someone really good to replace him. Like, that would be a nightmare. And so, I think Glenn did the right thing in agreeing to push that option out, let this thing all play out. But I think, if Tim were to get his perfect scenario, my guess is that it would be something happens with the ownership situation early on in the fall, right around when the start of the season. And then they just go forward with real clarity, real serenity in the infrastructure of the organization. And then he can just kind of work with that. Then I think that there's real possibilities for a longer term contract to be in place. And I know that Glenn Taylor would like to sign Tim Connelly to a longer term contract. I know that Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie would like to do that if they're the ones calling the shots. And so I just think that this is very much let's just see this out. Let's see what happens here. And once we have answers for it, then we can kind of go forward with the long-term plan for it. But he does want to be here, but I understand him needing to see this very big domino kind of fall into place before he makes a real commitment to it.
Tell us about Head Flyer Brewing.
Head Flyer Brewing, Northeast Minneapolis. They had unbelievable crowds for the Timberwolves playoff games. We had some live shows there that were just fantastic. I've been going there. My wife and I have been going there for years, even before we had a relationship with them. Great people that are running the place. Great people that are serving you your beers. Great tasting beers. First and foremost, you go into Head Flyer Brewing, you're going to get any kind of craft beer that you want. That's going to fit your palate. You also have awesome merchandise. They have Timberwolves Crunch Time and Bring Your Ass shirts. They have all sorts of local sports team themed shirts that you can pick up. They have hats and all those things as well. You can take beer home with you. You can also find a lot of the Head Flyer beers in local metro area liquor stores as well. And best of all, we are entering the summertime. The weather's been unbelievable lately. Just go and hang out at the tap room in Northeast Minneapolis on Hennepin Avenue. They have a great patio and a great deck right off of it. They usually have food trucks that are there, and it's just a great place to hang out. Bring your dog, bring your family, bring your coworkers, and have yourself a good beer and hang out and relax. And again, tell them that the Jon Krawcynski Show sent you.
Let's also hear about Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line.
SGLambchops.com is the place to go for Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing. Jordan and Craig have been in business with this super stylish, super comfortable clothing and leisure wear for years now. You see them courtside at Timberwolves games, Lynx games as well, supporting the local teams, and just some of the most comfortable stuff I've ever worn. Love their t-shirts, love their hoodies. Most of all, I love their shorts. Just super comfortable, really cool looking shorts that I wear all of the time. And in the summer months, perfect for just kind of hanging out, for going out on the town, for having a drink or two. You can always feel good wearing Lamb Chops shorts as well. And so go to sglambchops.com, use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything that they have there. And later on in the show, I will be answering a Twitter question, and the winning question will get a free pair of those Lamb Chop shorts. So sglambchops.com, JONK20 for 20% off all of the great stuff that they have there. Go and check it out.
Yes, thank you to everybody who sponsors the show. We do appreciate it. Let's get a little basketball. The Timberwolves could not stop the backdoor alley-oop dunks. They couldn't cover the corner three after dealing with Luka in the paint. The secondary Mavericks players had their way because of that. The Celtics have shut those things down. I mean, it may be as simple as the Celtics are better and have more good players, but it also feels like they've done something strategically to limit the Mavs. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I do think that so far, and again, we're recording this on Tuesday. It's 2-0 Boston. And the first two games have shown that there were some real matchup concerns and problems that the Timberwolves could not give the Mavericks that the Celtics have been able to give the Mavericks. On defense especially, what you're seeing is that the Celtics have one more guy to throw at Luka and Kyrie than the Timberwolves did, and I think it's making a huge difference. They can put Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on Luka, and both of them are fully mature veteran players that are big and strong and at least can bother Luka a little bit. Now, Luka had an unbelievable game 2 stat line. Like he's putting up great numbers, but they have guys that prevent him from being as precise a puppet master against the Celtics as he could be against the Timberwolves. I think Jaden McDaniels was just not strong enough. And I think Anthony Edwards was not tall enough to really bother Luka. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are both like 6'7", 6'8", maybe even 6'9". And they have been in these battles before. They know how to attack. And I think that they're taking advantage of that experience and of that size to help. With Kyrie, the Celtics have not just Drew Holiday, but they also have Derek White. And those are two all NBA level perimeter defenders. I think that when you look at the Wolves, they had Nickeil Alexander-Walker was a very good matchup for Kyrie. But beyond that, then you're kind of using Ant halftime on Luka, halftime on Kyrie, same with Jaden. And there are imperfections all the way through. But the Celtics can go White for, if Kyrie's playing 40 minutes, he can get White for 20 minutes. He can get Drew for 20 minutes. And that's really difficult and can really wear him out. He has not had a good first two games of the series. And I think that Celtics defense has a lot to say about it. It would be ideal if the Wolves, if Mike Conley was fully healthy, but even if he was fully healthy, would he be the guy that could help, could stymie Kyrie to the level that White and Holiday can? Probably not. But a banged up Mike Conley certainly hurt. And then just like only having Nickeil, and Nickeil's also limitations offensively were a problem as well. Drew Holiday and Derek White are both, again, like playoff tested offensive players that are having really good series. So I just think that Boston has more of the kind of pieces that can make Dallas really struggle, whereas the Wolves had the kind of pieces that could make, like, say, Denver really struggle. And so it's a matchup-oriented thing. And then on the other end, quickly, the Celtics have 5 guys who can score. 5. And the Wolves had too many places that Luka and Kyrie could be hidden defensively to prevent them from really having to work hard. And I think the Celtics are making Luka work hard on defense. They're making Kyrie work hard on defense because all 5 of their guys can put pressure on you offensively. And the Wolves have Cat, they have Ant, and maybe Jaden sometimes when he has it going is a tough cover. But Mike Conley's more of a catch and shoot quarterback guy. Rudy Gobert, obviously not an offensive threat at all. And so I think that part is pretty glaring right now when you look at why the Celtics are having success and why the Wolves were not able to have success, is they just were not able to take advantage of the weaknesses that Dallas has defensively because they didn't have enough offensive players to make the Mavericks get into compromising situations like the Celtics can make the Mavericks. So overall, this is a matchup league, and the Celtics just right now look like a much, much better matchup for the Mavericks than the Timberwolves did.
Good stuff, John. Thank you. Great update on the ownership situation. We will keep people updated. This is a great place to get all those updates because you get full context. You get to hear somebody talk through it rather than just reading about it. I'm a print guy. I appreciate everybody who reads either of our stuff or both of our stuff, but it's kind of fun to talk through these things and be able to have the back and forth. So for Jon Krawcynski, for our producers at TalkNorth.com, I'm Jim Suhan. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, Jim, let's get the Twitter question in real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I blew it. Go ahead. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So, again, sglambchops.com, JONK20 for 20% off there. Our Twitter question, of the week comes from Brady Leeser5. What steps does Nas have to take to make it a serious question who the starting power forward on this team should be? How wide of a gap is it? And hey, like, I know that there's a lot of discussion, especially when Karl-Anthony Towns is not playing well, that Naz Reid is going to be ready to be the power forward. Just trade Cat, maybe get a point guard, get another wing player, and then move Nas into the starting lineup. I think that he is capable of being a starting power forward in this league, but I do want to emphasize that there is a wide gap, especially defensively with Nas at the 4. He's made a lot of improvements defensively over the course of the year, but what we saw in the overall defensive efficiency numbers with Nas on the floor versus Cat, the numbers are just so much better with Karl-Anthony Towns. I also think that Cat is a more reliable 3-point shooter than Nas. We saw in Dallas series that Cat didn't hit anything, really struggled, and that was glaring for sure in the spotlight, to not play well and not shoot it well. And that was a real problem, but, everything is better offensively when Cat is on the floor versus Nas for long stretches. So Nas, what he told us after the season was, I'm going to work on everything. I'm going to try and get better defensively. I'm going to try and get more consistent. And I do think that he's got to just raise every sort of facet of his game, because he is basically Karl-Anthony Towns without or a light version of Karl-Anthony Towns right now. He can shoot it from outside, not quite as well as Karl-Anthony Towns. He can move his feet defensively, and he probably does that better than Cat, but Cat, just with his size and his strength, I think is a little bit more imposing defensively than Nas is. And so he'll just have to get stronger. I think that Nas will really benefit from his playoff experience. This was the first significant playoff experience of his career, and he had ups and downs throughout all the series. But I think that experience will help him. But overall, he just has to raise every facet of his game, if that were to be the plan, to move Cat out and move Nas into the starting power forward position. I don't think that's the plan right now. I don't think the Timberwolves want to make a move that significant, but if something presented itself, that would certainly be a pivot that they would look hard at, but it would not be as simple as Nas is the power forward, they're going to be totally fine. He would have to make significant improvements. So thanks, Brady, for your question. I will contact you on Twitter to get you lined up with lamb chops for a free pair of shorts.
Great stuff, John. Thank you. Thanks to everyone who listens. We will talk to you next week.